Welcome to the Remote Learning Committee. My name is Brian, and today we're going to be creating rubrics to help you with grading in Google Classroom. Today, we're going to be remaking this rubric. Before we begin, let's review some vocabulary so we're using the same language as Google. Over here on the left-hand side, we have the first bit of information you'll need to enter in your rubric in Google Classroom. Google calls these the criterion, or specifically the criterion title. This particular rubric that we're remaking doesn't have a more detailed description of each criterion, but if you wanted to elaborate on what your criterion were evaluating, you would do it in the criterion description section. Moving on, we'll take a look at the points. This particular rubric is missing the level title, but your rubric may have a descriptor such as developing or exceeds standards attached to each point value. This is called the level title in Google. Finally, we have the description, which is the specific requirements to attain each point value in each criterion. So, let's get to Google and begin making our rubric. I've already made an assignment that I want to include the rubric with, and so I'll go to the right-hand side. You'll notice as we select plus rubric, there are two additional options. If you're comfortable making your rubric in a spreadsheet, you can simply upload that here. The other thing to note is that if you do make a rubric, you can reuse it in future assignments. For today, let's select Create Rubric. Starting from the top, we see Use Scoring, which is on by default. The Remote Learning Committee strongly encourages you to keep that on. Below that, we can adjust the point sorting order. Most rubrics we see are in descending order, so unless your school or district has a different policy, we also encourage you to leave that on its default setting. Then, we see the criterion title, and we can start making our rubric. Going back to our rubric example, the first criterion was organization/progression, so we'll go ahead and type that in here. Our sample rubric was missing a criterion description, and I can see that this isn't a required field, so I could leave it blank. However, I feel as though this criterion title could stand to be more specific, so I'm going to enter appropriateness for intended topic, purpose, and audience, use of literary devices, and control, including transitions, as the criterion description. Then, you can see our first point value of 1 is already entered. Although we could change this to whatever we wanted, let's just leave it at 1 and we'll make sure we start at the corresponding area of our rubric. Our rubric doesn't have a level title for 1, so we'll just leave that blank. Finally, I'll type in the description for 1 in the organization/progression criterion. You'll notice I don't have a full set of text tools, so I'll just replace the bullet points with a star. Once that is done, I'm going to add a level and start working on it. You'll notice I could add it on either side. However, since we specified that we wanted our points in descending order in the options at the top, it doesn't actually matter where we put it. It's just a way to help keep you organized. I'm going to add it on the left-hand side since it matches our example rubric. This time, I actually need to enter the point value. And I'll continue adding the descriptions for the organization/progression criterion. Once I've finished adding all 4 descriptions, 1 for each point value, I'm going to begin working on my second criterion. I'll go to the bottom of the page, select plus add a criterion, and fill in all of my descriptions again. You'll notice that I will need to add each point value again. Sometimes this is an inconvenience, but it will also allow you to be more thoughtful with your point values. Maybe you really wanted development of ideas to be worth twice as much as organization/progression, but didn't know how to do that on a paper rubric. Here, you can just double your point values to 8, 6, 4, and 2. It also means you can add criterion with fewer point values. Did they write their name? 2 points. Didn't? 0 points. You have a lot of control with Google Rubrics. Once I'm done with all 4 of my descriptions in each of my 3 criterion, I'm ready to save my rubric. Logging in as a student, we see when students click on an assignment, they're able to see the rubric right in the assignment. And now, let's use our rubric to grade a student's packet. I'm going to select the assignment and View Assignment. I'll notice in addition to the usual grading fields, I can see my new rubric over here on the right side. It's very abbreviated, but I can see the criterion and the point values match the descending order that we set the rubric up to have. As I assign the students' scores in the rubric, you can see the grade field is automatically updated to reflect the rubric totals out of 100%. Students will be able to see my selections in the rubric, so they will understand where this grade came from. And, as usual, when I finish grading students, I select Return. Congratulations, you're well on your way to successful remote teaching. Remember, remote learning is a collaboration between teachers, schools, students, and families. The Remote Learning Committee is honored you decided to invite us into your classroom's family. We hope to see you in another video real soon.